Let's see. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome Hooray-ers to our second Q&A. Our first one was so fun. And so we're back at it on this Friday afternoon. And so if you have questions, just pop them in the chat and we will definitely get to those. But you want to start off strong with Kelly? Let's start off with Kelly's question. What do you think? You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, totally. Yes. So Kelly and I sat down and chat, and she is an accomplished contract attorney. I know Kelly. And she says that she is currently writing a 500-word essay for a job application. And AI is forbidden. Oh, that's right. Oh, this is a good question, Kelly. We chatted about this. So it was expressly forbidden to use AI in the instructions for this job application, right? So it's quite a challenge. So what? Oh, Terrence shaking his head. What's your take on it?
I've got a few personal stories. I've got a few personal stories, and so I'll get to it. And so obviously, Katie, because you're our family. So I have a 21-year-old that's going to Boise State, and I have a 17-year-old that does online school. And the 21-year-old, when he went to junior college at first, I told him, hey, man, this is 2 years ago. Hey, man, start using ChatGPT. And it'll get you 80% of the way there. It's meant to help you go from 0 to 80, but you got to do your thing here. And some of it, this is help. Some of it is hey, telling it to put it in your tone. So at the time, I'm a 19-year-old who is probably in the middle of the pack in terms of academics, and I play sports, and here's my persona. And that's really important too, by the way, anytime you're using the GPTs, but especially for stuff like this, that you want things to come out in your tone. So Connor does that. We went back and forth. He's like, this is the best thing ever. No issues, right? He used it in school because, again, he always uses 80%, get him 80% of the way there, make sure it's in his tone. Hey, Connor, that'd be something that you would write, because otherwise can't, right? And so that's my 21-year-old, right? He uses it, and they have the same rules at Boise State now. They're like, you can't use it. And I was like, Connor, it's the same thing that applies before. Just do it the exact same way, because that's just, no offense to the academics, it's just to say don't use it is just like burying your head in the sand. Now, let me tell you about my 17-year-old. So my 17-year-old, who is very smart, right, decides to use it. But he doesn't like taking any feedback from his dad. The only one that can kind of give him feedback is his brother. And he gets caught twice using it because he didn't do the 0 to 80%. He did that. There you go, copy paste, right? And send it in. So we get nasty grams from his online school saying, hey, and so I have to have that conversation. I'm like, your brother, who you are 10x smarter than, has effectively leveraged this as a tool that it should be and not just a copy paste. All right. So now I've got my diatribe out of my two wonderful sons. I would say exactly that. In using it we use it in professional copywriting. We use it for ourselves to formulate things, even emails. I'll use it for myself. Even though I consider myself to be a pretty good copywriter. And Luke, I'll let you do it, but I'm probably top 15, 20% in the marketing world. I know there's some really good ones. But I'll use it still. So I look at it as saying, hey, you know what? Absolutely, you should use it in everything, but go through, make sure it's in your tone, make sure it's something to where it doesn't, if it doesn't sound like you, then you need to rewrite it or go back and prompt ChatGPT or whatever when you're using Claude or whatever to say, hey, this is not my persona. And now the GPs are getting to a point where you can say, hey, I'm Terrence Brandley. I have enough stuff out there, enough content that I put out in the marketplace. Go do some research on me and then try this again, type of thing. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. Luke, I'll let you jump in and give yours as well.
So you're saying make sure you give it your persona, right? Mm-hmm. Now, but Luke, put our minds at ease, because so in this job description post, right, in the question that Kelly was given, it says AI is forbidden. So on the technical back end, Luke, our Terrence is saying they're never gonna know. So put our minds at ease. Luke, what?
I promise I'll get off my soapbox. My question back would be why? Right? Why? right? To say it's forbidden is like saying that is probably the dumbest thing that I've heard. Now, if you say, hey, don't copy, like, but to say it's forbidden, it's like, that's crazy. And especially in the legal field, the legal industry is going to be significantly impacted. It's probably one of the top 3 to 4 industries that is going to be impacted by AI without a doubt. And we know because we've had clients in this space building out AI products for the legal industry. So for them to say forbidden, I'm going to get off my soapbox, but I think that's ridiculous. That is just not smart.
And I
Well,
trust Kelly. I know she shares your sentiment. But yeah, Luke, what's your take on this?
I think it's really interesting because obviously, like, anything that I do, because most of my work every day is like copywriting, ideation, and so I've really become like fluent at using AI to basically get me the first 9 yards there, and then I go do my pass at everything and make sure that it is in my tone, in my voice. But I think Kelly brings up a really good point here in the comments, which is one of the biggest like barriers that we're seeing to AI adoption in organizations. And I know Kelly's not a part of this organization yet, but saying how it's a government investigation job, so can't feed that proprietary info into AI. And that's one of the things that I keep seeing over and over and over again. My girlfriend, she works at a big corporate company, and they're really not allowed to use AI for anything because they're so worried about putting their like proprietary information into the public GPT models that they are really hamstringing their employees by allowing no use of it. And that's one of the biggest things that we're seeing. I mean, in the small to medium sized businesses, it's a little bit more um, accepted, I would say, because there's not as much proprietary information. But especially at the corporate level, there's this huge like elephant in the room, right? Where every other company is starting to use it and it makes you 10 times more efficient. But how do you use it without actually, putting your proprietary data at risk? And I think that's a huge question and something that we're going to have to navigate over the next couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. So I think our advice to Kelly would be maybe, hey, and when I talk to you, Kelly, you are very articulate. So maybe you write this one on your own. I would say I would probably use it. I mean, I'm a writer in sort of my other world, and so I use AI a lot as just a collaborative partner. So not necessarily a do it for me, but a give me feedback, ask me questions, right? Prompt me with questions of things I didn't think about, right? Or I would say putting in information about what, like, here's what I've written, here's what the job is, here's what the prompt was, right? Tell me places where I missed the mark, tell me things that I need to include or beef up, and asking AI for feedback on your own generated writing, I think might be a way that I would go with that. But I also think it's a good problem to have because it means that, right, AI really is about like a hybrid model of taking our brains and just making us better and figuring out what's the tool to do that. And so I know I do that a lot with my own writing, which is 100% me generated. I put it into the AI, and then I ask it to prompt me with some questions. I ask it to say like, what am I missing? Right? Hey, this is a article for this publication. Right? Is it going to land with this demographic? Those kind of things. And I think that could be a good way that AI would be a really helpful, useful tool here, even if it can't give you a starting place for it. Right? Which
And
yeah.
I really want to bring this up too here, Katie. I know we briefly touched on this last time, but this is like this is a tip that I have for everybody in the group that has like blown my mind over the last week because I thought I was like pretty sophisticated with how I was using AI in terms of helping me, do my job more effectively and faster and efficiently. But Terrence had given me the tip, and I brought this up last time, but I want to go into a little bit more detail on this. Terrence had given me the tip to use this tool called WhisperFlow. And basically, what WhisperFlow is it's a shortcut on your keyboard where all you do is you press the Control and the Windows key. That's at least what it is on mine, and it pulls up this recorder, and it basically allows you to turn any speech into text in wherever you're writing. And so that has completely changed my workflow for everything that I do. Now I constantly have Claude open up. I use WhisperFlow, and then I will just go on a long monologue dropping all the information that I can think of, like a brain dump, basically using WhisperFlow to brain dump into Claude. And the coolest thing that I found about this then is I'm able to ask Claude for any writing output after that to use my exact tone of voice and make it conversational using the way I exactly speak. And I found that what this does, what used to happen is I used to do my like brain dump while typing into Claude, and then the output would still be fairly robotic. But now that I've spoken into Claude, I can then ask it to write it conversational, and I find that the output is 10 times better on the first iteration because it's a much more conversational tone. So that is one of the tips that has been like just supercharging my workflows right now. Is WhisperFlow plus Claude together has been so powerful.
Awesome. All right. And I want to go back to that. I just want to welcome Erica and Angelica. You're here in the house. If ladies, as you come in, if you have questions, drop them right in the chat and we will definitely get to all of them. We're talking about kind of job searching and career stuff and applications and AI and how it can be a useful tip there. And one of the main overarching things from this conversation has been make sure that when you are using AI, you are giving it sort of your tone, right? Because what you're going to get back out, I think that's what I hear you saying, Luke, right? Is what you're going to get back out is just going to be so much better if it has your voice, your tone. It's going you're not going to have to go through 6 prompts to say revise this, revise this, revise this. You're going to be more likely to get that out in the first or second time. And one of the tips you just said was AI. If you are speaking to it, right, it's a lot more likely to pick up on your tone. So when you said whisper flow, just as a non-techie person, is that like a separate application or is that
Yeah,
something you already have? How do we
yeah,
get it?
yeah. It's
Yeah,
if you just go look it up. I think so. I think it's for. Sorry, Luke. It's like whisperflow.ai or something like that. But you go and find it, and it is. I think it's free for like the first like 1,000 words or something to kind of use it. I think 1,000 a month anyway. That was enough for me. I was like, oh, this is fantastic, and so I went and did it. But it's a separate. Let me see if I can find
I
it.
I just dropped the link in the
Oh,
chat for
thanks.
You're on it.
everybody.
I love it. Yep.
Yeah, and I think Katie, you're nailing the point right there. Is because AI is only as good as the information and the prompts that you give it, right? The output, it's naturally going to sound very robotic unless you force it into your voice. And that's the biggest tip that I have for anyone who's like fairly new to using AI is you have to intentionally give it commands and give it enough data of your speaking voice or
Mm,
your typing voice or whoever it may be. And then it becomes very good as your assistant, right? If you give it a like AI is all about data. That's what a large language model is. It's just trained on a ton of data. And so the more data that you can give it on who you are, on your speaking voice, on your tone, the better the output will be and the more the output will actually align with what you're trying to do and who you are. So that's the biggest tip is just use those keywords like replicate my tone or I want you to use a casual conversational tone. This cannot sound robotic. I want this to be at a 10th grade reading level. Like if you give AI those specific prompts, it is very, very good at what it does.
at the output. Okay. And that kind of brings us to one of the questions that has come up. I know in a lot of my conversations, I've seen it in the chat, and that is keeping ourselves sort of safe on AI, right? As we are using it more, right? How can we be sure where does the data go? What data should we not give it? I mean, because you're making me think, Luke, in my chat GPT, right? Like, should I give it my social media profile? Should I give it, how much information should I give it? Like, should I build it a robust idea of who I am? What is the things that I should give it? What are the things I shouldn't give it? And how can we be certain that what we're giving it is safe, is private? Is it private? Right?
Yeah, let me take an initial swing at this, and then Luke can probably talk about it more just because we have like a client or what was a client who's now a partner who builds platforms for us for the very reason you talked about, which is businesses. I'll start with the businesses first, right? Businesses, and just what Luke talked about, all the LLMs, the GPTs, they run off of data, right? Well, that's as a business person, not let alone being an individual, the most valuable and thing that we have and want to protect is our data, right? So for a business, it's protecting all their intellectual property, all their financial data, everything that is under that business roof, right? And again, which is why, I can't remember who it was asked. It was Kelly that talked about the law firm, and that's like that's why they say it's absolutely like zero tolerance, because they're trying to figure out what do we do, right? Because we want to protect our data first and foremost before we allow people to go out and play with these LLMs. The problem is people are doing it anyway. But so, like that is a very good question. And you look at it and say, okay, well, who is I? Because anything you put into ChatGPT, OpenAI, Sam Altman, which I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but I don't trust the guy. But like none of them, right? Like even Google, they're all going to use it for their own data collection purposes, periods, right? So, the only really safe way, because even Copilot, right? And Copilot is Microsoft's, LLM, which a lot of the companies are like, okay, if you're going to use something, use them, because Microsoft's kind of like the trusted, corporate partner. Okay, but even still, right? Like that data is going to Microsoft. So, really, there's really only one kind of safe way, but right now there isn't in terms of personal use, unless I don't know of one, Luke, but that where you can use an LLM that maybe is powered by one of the other agents. But it's a very valid question, and right now it's kind of the wild, wild west. So I don't know if there really is an answer. Luke, do you want to kind of?
Yeah, I mean, I personally, so I've done a lot of research into it, and when I was getting my master's in AI, I had to take a lot of like ethics behind AI courses and all that. So I did learn a lot about this. I can think kind of my big takeaway from it though is it's really not that different from what we've been doing with Google all these years, right?
Sure.
Google all these years, everything you search, right? Google is taking that information back and trying to identify how they can give us a better output based on what we're searching, based on like how satisfied we were with what we were able to find based on that search. It's this constant data feedback loop that Google's been doing for years. ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, none of that is any different, right? Like just like you would
Facebook even, right? Like, I mean, like they're absorbing, they're listening. The biggest problem, I can't grab my phone because I'm using it as a webcam right now, but all of us have our phones next to us around our families, around our conversations. If you want to test something out where it's really going to freak you out, right? Like have your phone around and start, if you don't have let's say you don't have a cat, start talking about cat food and watch how quickly cat food ads start popping up on your feed, right? Your phone's already listening to you. The Facebooks and all the social medias, they have this buried little setting where they can basically listen to your conversation. So if you really want to test it out, to Luke's point, I don't want to say to everyone like, hey, you just pretend like nothing exists. But it's like at this point, it's going to be really hard to, fully protect yourself from data, siphoning.
Yeah, and so the biggest thing I'd say is like just like you wouldn't have given Google your social security number for the last 20 years. Like you don't want to give ChatGPT, Perplexity your social security number. You don't want to give it proprietary company information if it's like related to something sensitive. I mean, it's really the same rules as Google, right? Because it's just this data feedback loop. Like anything you give it, it's going to use that data to train its models better. So I really don't think I don't think we have to be that concerned with anything at this moment. Obviously, like proprietary information, working government contract, that's a whole different story. But for personal use, I would, to your point earlier, Katie, I would have no problem giving it my social media profile because let's be honest, if they want that information, they can go find that anyways. And so it's not like I'm not doing anything differently with ChatGPT than I was with Google before, all the rise of all the large language models.
So how is it like, I guess follow-up question, Luke, how is it learning on that stuff? Because so for example, from the example I gave earlier, sometimes I'll be writing something. It's my own content I've created. I put it into AI, right? Now I feel more comfortable. Maybe I shouldn't putting it into Gemini because like I pay for the Gemini. I don't know, and it's not called open. Maybe I mean, but so it's my own thing, right? It's my own intellectual property that I put in there. What am I giving it when I give it that? Like, what am I allowing it to say, "This is now yours. This is content you've created"? Like, how does that work when I put in stuff I create and get feedback on it?
I mean, that's the scary slash interesting part of large language models is they're really just a machine learning model, which a machine learning model is basically just taking as much data as it possibly can and amassing all this data. And through amassing as much data as it possibly can, it is constantly training itself how to be better, how to be more human. And the more data and information that you can give a large language model, the better it becomes. That's why things like ChatGPT, Claude are getting so much better, so much quicker, is because people like you, Katie, are putting all your stuff in there and it's learning, okay, this is how Katie writes. This is
Mhm.
how another human writes. So I can more accurately, give outputs that sound more and more human like, right? So that's why these things are learning so quickly, is because there's millions of users every day who are giving it all the information you give it, Katie, and it's learning from the information you give it to get better and better and better. So it's not like it's taking your data and it's like siloing you off and it's like this is everything about Katie Brandley, but it's taking any information you give it and adding it to its like big pool of data that it uses to learn and become better and better and better. So it's not like it's individual to you, but it is adding everything you give it to this giant data pool.
Got it. I mean, joke's on it because it's learning comma splices. That's like, joke's on you, OpenAI, because you'll never know how to use a semicolon then, like if you're learning from me. So, like, all right. Well, good info. If you were just joining us, remember if you've got a question, throw it into the chat and we will definitely get to it. But we're talking about kind of large language models, which is a good topic for today because we actually have some Her AI Advantage info that we're going to be launching our first course with actual content in there next week. And it's going to be on just what we're talking about, right? So, all this stuff. What is an LLM? How do we understand it? Not in from the super technical vantage point, but in real everyday language that we can understand that's applicable to us. And then Luke, I know you and Terrence have also been working on some business stuff, and I know we've got some business owners in the house here. So, did you want to talk about where we're going, where Her AI is going to support all of our business lady hustlers out there?
Yeah, let me take a stab at it. So the I know Katie's been having conversations with so many of the women in this group, and really sounds like a lot of the women in the group are in two buckets, right? Like just kind of getting started with AI. How can it make my daily life, easier? How can I use it at work? That type of thing. And that's where the prompting 101 course is coming in. And then the other side of things is there sounds like there's a lot of women who have been asking questions about how can I, use AI to actually start a side hustle or start a business or make my business more efficient, and that is more on mine and Terrence's expertise there because we've been doing it for the last 3 years. And so what I've done is I've put together the first couple modules for a AI for business course. We're going to show you how to use AI to basically help you either get your first business up, off the ground, so for starting from scratch, or if you have an existing business, how you can use it to streamline things, make yourself more efficient. So I'm really excited for that. Like we're just dropping everything that we do on a daily basis to use AI to kind of get a business off the ground. And so I think it'll be really, really, valuable for a lot of the women in the group.
Luke, is it going to also include like those who are working for like in the corporate environments or in jobs to where how they can potentially use it in legally and within the guidelines of the businesses? Are we going to touch on that one, or are we going to leave that for another one?
I mean, we can that doesn't fall within the scope of the AI for like
Okay.
business because we're more thinking
Yeah.
the AI for business course is more on like how you can actually start a business using AI. But
Yeah.
I do think that that's going to be a really powerful part of this too, is how women who are working corporate jobs or whatever it may be can use AI within the guidelines that their corporation has given them.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something that we can include in kind of the prompting 101 course, because I think
Yeah.
that's going to be really, I think that's more in the scope, right? Where it's like, it doesn't help you to learn prompting 101 if your company's not going to let you do it. And so here's how you can work within the guidelines of that.
Angelica did bring up an interesting point that we didn't mention, but that is that when she's using her AI for some level of privacy, she turns off the improve the model for everyone in the data controls. She says that helps her to feel a little bit more comfortable when she's working with proprietary data. Maybe can we lean into that, or Luke, maybe like
Sure.
from a technical
If that makes you
perspective,
feel,
what's not
if it makes
really?
you feel better at night, Angelica, then go for it. Like if it's on ChatGPT, which is OpenAI, which is owned by Sam Altman, you don't want to go down the rabbit hole of his history. But he's not very. I think he skipped the ethics class that Luke took during his
Terrence
AI
and Sam
master's.
apparently had like a bad breakup. Like
No, I am.
you're
I
Taylor Swift and he's
historically,
Blake
I
Lively. I feel like
understand. I
right
know
now.
where all of this has come from, and so like and let's be frank. This isn't the first rodeo. Like I've been around long enough. I was around when Facebook was Facebook and it wasn't Meta, and he wasn't the most ethical guy either. It turned out, right? That's where the whole Cambridge Analytica scandal came from with Facebook and advertising and the group. So like, listen, we'd love to think that they all, even like Google. Google's like original tagline was "Do no evil." Come on, like again, I'm such a super skeptic, probably because I've been in this space for 20 plus years that I know everything drives backwards from them making money. So, to Angelica's point, like, yes, that probably, I think I'm to the point, maybe it's just because I've been around this so long. I'm like, you guys are going to get it some way or another, whether it's my phone or somewhere else. So I'm like, go ahead. But that's just me,
I
Angelica.
mean,
So
Angelica does agree. She says probably need to approach it as if it's taking all of the info. But Luke, from a technical perspective, when we do check that box, like, is that just something they've given us to ease our minds and it's really changing nothing? Or what are we doing when we check that box? When we say, do not improve the model for everyone. What technically is it doing?
I mean, I wish I could answer that, but theoretically, what I was saying before, where everything that we give it, right, it takes it in to learn more and more so that it can improve its model faster. Theoretically, that would then be disabling that that continuous improvement there within our model, where we're then not giving our data back to the big data like pool that I was talking about. But whether that's the case or not, I have no clue.
Mm.
I have not gotten to look behind the code of ChatGPT. I wish I could. That would be very
I
cool to
don't
see.
need to.
But
I know exactly. They're doing it again.
We all know what camp Terrence is in. We all like he's
I've
not
seen it before. I've seen it with Facebook and Google 20 years ago. And so, even though I poo-poo on Sam Altman, being the OpenAI, CEO and where obviously ChatGPT is, I know those guys park their ethics somewhere. They want to, build themselves to be multi-billionaires and see who gets the next big yacht. But that's just my two
I
well,
cents.
mean,
I don't know if I've been honest enough with my opinion on that one, Katie.
well, look,
well,
fellow young people like Luke and I, we're just more optimistic.
Oh, shots fired. All right.
Like, I'm sorry,
I don't
Luke, go
know,
ahead.
Katie. I might fall more in Terrence's camp here, because at the end of the, I don't know enough about Sam Altman to be as strongly of a Sam Altman hater as Terrence
Yeah.
is. But at the end of the day, I know that what is going to make these companies billions and billions and billions of dollars, just like the reason Facebook wins whenever it comes to advertising, is because Facebook has the most data on everybody. And so the way ChatGPT, Gemini, Manus, Perspective, like the way all these things are going to win is by at some point monetizing the data that they have on all of us for ad purposes, right? Because think about it, if you could see my entire ChatGPT history, you could do a very good job at placing hyper targeted ads in front of me, and that is where this is going to go at some point. And so I think more than anything, that's why they want this data, right? That's their $1 trillion opportunity with these LLMs, is perfectly placed ads right when you need them, because it has access to your entire ChatGPT history. It's going to be like Google ads, Facebook ads on steroids is what I see.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. So I think overarching, and Angelica agrees with you. She doesn't trust big tech either, sadly. I don't think any of us really do. But so we should assume that, regardless of if we check the box or not, our data is going into the big data farm, right? And so don't give it anything that you wouldn't want that to have, right? If you've got proprietary data from your company on clients, things like that, don't put it in there. Don't put the personal data that you wouldn't give out normally, like your social security numbers, things like that.
Correct.
Shouldn't put that in there, but we should kind of view it as the same as when you fill out, to get like a shopper's club card at your supermarket or something like that, right? Like it's tracking everything that you're buying, those kind of things. So view it sort of like that when you do the chat GPT. So yeah. Okay, we shifting gears a little bit back to, because I know we've got a lot of ladies in here who are looking for new jobs, love the job that they have, right? But in terms of career search, in terms of AI certifications, so the market is really flooded with AI learning, right? What certifications do we think are actually helpful? Kelly says currently she's starting the Microsoft Excel with Gen I certification. And then Angelica is also looking at some certifications. She's got 20 plus years in digital marketing, and she's kind of looking more for AI consulting, right? Infancy of AI learning. What should we get certified in? What should we wait for? What should we pass on? What are the directions that you think are good to go, even if we, in a world this big, maybe can't give specifics? What would be some of those hallmarks of things that you would think would be really good?
I think I'll take a swing at it too. I think for like the enterprise, stick with kind of the Microsoft stuff, right? Like if you think, right, because it's just going to be a safe, bet, right? And they're going to teach you Copilot. It doesn't matter; it's all the same. And it's if you work in a corporate environment, it's better off just to learn that stuff, because the things that you'll learn from like Luke and I are like we're doing stuff very nimble. We can be far more aggressive, and so that would be my take in terms of. Let me take a stab at the how fast things have moved. So Luke and I have been like in the deep end of this, if using AI, using agents daily for the last 2 years. Things are moving so fast. And so I would caution you to go out and look for certification classes. Like that's where I think this type of group will help substantially. Sorry, someone was trying to call in there. You can hear me. You can't see me. It's probably a good thing anyway. But let me just see if I can get my. Okay. So I wouldn't look for certification stuff at this point. Like I think groups like this, to where you're active with people that, not to toot mine and Luke's horn, like we're in this stuff daily. Like there's stuff that changes daily and we know about it. Like even just Claude Perplexity came out with that they now have extended memory across different chats. I'm like, ooh, that's pretty cool. So I would say, if unless you're in a corporate environment, and if you are, stick to things that are maybe like Microsoft specific to like Microsoft Excel or things like that. Otherwise, and again, I don't know who it was, had 20 years digital experience. I do too. I wouldn't go out looking for things. I would just get your hands on it, come into groups like this, and there are other good ones out there too, that I think you'll get more hands-on, like boots on the street type of stuff, rather than a certification course that is rooted. I just think it's moving too fast for certification stuff, to be frank.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you, Terrence. And I mean, I came from a bit more of like the traditional background, right? Because I got my master's degree in AI. That was 3 years ago that I got that master's degree. Not a single thing I learned during that program is still applicable today. Quite frankly, I mean, the rate at which things are changing. I think any course certification program, unless they're being updated on a month to month basis,
Yeah.
are just going to give you outdated information. So I think, to Terrence's point, the most important thing that I would recommend right now is just being in the groups, keeping up with what's going on, and then using it on a daily basis, right? Like Claude, ChatGPT, all those things, they're coming out with new features, new updates, new models daily, weekly, monthly. And the only way that I really know about them is by using them, right? Like I'll go into ChatGPT and I'll see a new thing. It's like, oh, we've dropped this feature update. Like we just added our agentic workflow builder, and then just getting my hands dirty and using it, because frankly, it's just changing too fast, right? Like, to the point we were talking about earlier, it's getting so much data every single day that it's just getting better and better and better. And that's enabling these exponential improvements overnight. And so any sort of courses are getting pretty outdated pretty quickly. So obviously mine and Terrence's perspective is a little bit different, because we're not trying to get certifications in AI, right, to advance in a career or move up at a job, because obviously I know that type of thing helps in the corporate world. Terrence and I more see it from like the business owner perspective, but I think from just a functional use of AI standpoint, the best thing you can do is just be using it every day, being part of groups like this where new things, as soon as they're dropped, people are talking about them, using them. That's just how you have to learn with AI.
Yeah, Kelly brings up an interesting point. She joined another AI meetup group and it was fake, right? And so now AI is starting to create groups and they're not fake. I
Oh,
know Kelly, you and I were talking about job posts, right? That the market is kind of saturated on Indeed and LinkedIn, that there are a lot of job posts that are not real job posts, that are really more like you were talking about, Luke, like data mining and things like that. So you go through the hoops. I think that's something interesting. And I just want to recap kind of your points about certification, because I think that is something that traditionally speaking, it was, hey, let's do this so that you can open up the door to this, right? And I think your point is well said. Is this field is changing so rapidly that there is no substitute for a network. And I think that was always the case, but it used to sort of be network combined with the certification or the learning or whatever piece of paper you needed to sort of open the door, get your foot in the door. And now really the network has almost superseded that, right? Has become the thing that you need. And so a couple things on that I would just say is, groups like this, and we're opening up a lot of stuff next week to actually have member meet and greets so we can build that network. I mean, we're up to probably after this call, we're going to have over 500 ladies in this group. And so, of those 500 people, we want to connect people and really build that network so that we can exchange ideas. I still think LinkedIn is a great place for that, to find other people who are in your industry, to throw things out, even if you don't know them, right? Throw out 5, 6, 7, 10 chats. You might find somebody on a good day who wants to chat with you, wants to pop on a 15-minute call and tell you, hey, here's how I'm using it. Yeah, I'd love to give you some information. You might not, they might be busy, but if you throw that out, you never know. So I think the network is what you were saying. Lean into that in your industry and in groups like this. And then I think that goes to the idea of, how do we identify fake AI stuff, right? So we're using AI to help us and to benefit us, but AI is also being used for all of these other goals that you talked about that are maybe more nefarious than we have. So what are some of the hallmarks of, like, if you're Kelly, if you're out there, if you're looking for jobs, what are some of the hallmarks of something that is real? What are some of the hallmarks of something that is AI created in terms of groups like these, job postings, just data mining stuff?
I'll give you a couple, but again, it's hard. I'm going to be really frank, and it's going to get much, much harder. Wait until you see there are generative AI, meaning I can put my some videos like this one today and put it into some generative AI software that will put out a Terrence that talks like me and says to them, man, like, whoa. Like I said it to Luke, I'm like, this is getting really close. Um, it's just hard. And I think some minor things, again, I have an eye for some of it, but it's like, you know what M dashes are? They're like double dashes. Like, I don't know, an M dash, it's like a long dash. A lot of the LMs use those in copy. If you see a lot of emojis used or icons used in copy, that's pretty indicative. Um, those are the two
Lots of
that,
colons, dashes, emojis, like
yeah,
those types of things.
yeah.
It really seems to like that a lot.
Yep. Yep. But
Interesting.
it's just getting hard. It really is, and it will continue. And I
You know, it's a really weird time for it, because I mean, like, I'm all in on AI and its power for helping us do our jobs better and like improving, our efficiency and our workflows and our lives. But it's like it's starting to get to the point where it's like it's bugging me at certain times, right? Like I'm not on TikTok, but I'll sit there on the couch and my girlfriend will be scrolling through TikTok and I'll be watching with her, and there's like this trend out there where it's like, is this a video AI or is it real? And I get it wrong every time. I have no idea. It's a coin toss. And
yeah.
I really don't like that side of AI, right? I really like the side of AI where it helps me be more efficient at my job. It helps me focus on more of the innovation and the creative tasks, and I don't have to do as much of the manual work anymore. I love that, and I love the potential of that for society as a whole, but I really don't like kind of the deep fakes, the Gen AI type of stuff that we're seeing, it just feels like it's like eroding my trust in what I see out in the marketplace. And that's something that I don't like to be associated with. Like everybody in my circle, right, sees me as like the AI guy, and they're like, "Oh, so you're like a fan of all these Gen AI videos?" I'm like, "No, I hate this. Like I think it's really eroding trust with what we see." So I think it is a really like weird time that we're kind of living in, right? There's the huge benefit of AI, but there's also the huge downside. So I definitely feel for Kelly going into that fake AI group, because it's so hard to tell right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think one thing also to look for is to hold on to that idea of humanity that is we all exist outside the four walls of these little boxes. So we know those touch points when you're out there, when you're in a group, like you should see people posting videos, right? It should, sound
We're doing
authentic.
these.
Yeah.
Like Katie, to your point, and I think one of the very first posts I think I made in your group was me of a video, and the reason is I do think it's more personal, and that can't be faked by AI, right? I mean, right now, I shouldn't say that, right? But like,
I
at
was gonna
least
say.
knowing you, hopefully with companies like Loom, they'll be like, nope, that's real, right? That's Terrence making a video versus just a downloaded part. But like, I think things like that. And to your point, I think the in real life stuff, they call it IRL. The new kids call it IRL, in real life. And I'm
Mine and
like,
Katie's generation, yeah.
right,
Yeah,
right, right.
we call it
You know
IRL.
what we
That's
used to
right.
call
Yeah,
it
we're
before the
we're
internet?
always chatting about IRL.
We just called a meeting. We didn't have to disseminate between a Zoom meeting, whatever. A meeting was a meeting. It was either a meeting or a phone call. And we didn't fax people to see if they wanted to come on our phone call. But anyway, my point being is that I don't know the in real life stuff. I think stuff like this, like what you're doing, Katie, too, with like these Q&A things, like we're real people, right? And I think the more that you can integrate, I think you'll start to see that. I think that you'll start to see more of this type of thing to get around the AI, slop that's out there. And I think you're going to see more in real life stuff. And I know we've talked about it too, doing, some, semi-annual events or quarterly events when this group grows as big as we think it will, right? Because that's what community is all about. So I think what will happen is it will actually push to a lot more of the old stuff that we used to do in my generation, was like meet in person, right?
Meet in
And
person? What?
That
So much
Terrence,
time.
you bring up a really good point, and this is kind of a tangent almost to this conversation, but it's why, when we're launching this next week, we're coming out with the AI for business type of module there. And one of the big things that we're going to talk about that is that community-based business models are really the future that Terrence and I and Katie see, because of exactly what you're talking about right now, right? This erosion of trust. That
yes,
like there's so much fake crap out there that things like school, like there's a reason some of the biggest entrepreneurs in the space are going all in on platforms like School that we're using right now. And it's because of that erosion of trust, and how community-based business models allow us to bring people together. Like in this group right here, like that you started, Katie, you wanted to help women. And you wanted to help women use AI to make their lives better. And that, like, I think that's a really powerful purpose that could have been completely lost on the market if you didn't have something like a community-based business model like School to pull people into and help people learn on that journey with you. And so, side tangent there, but I really think that's the way the market is going as a whole, is these, like Terrence said, community-based business models, in-person meetups. Like, we're going to go polar opposite from back to what Terrence was doing when he was younger.
We are sending him a fax machine from Amazon right
you
now.
like that reference, fact
I
machine?
I require that you fax me 48 hours in advance before any in real life IRL meetings.
Did you accept my
I
meeting
don't
invitation?
think
Well, yeah, I faxed you. I faxed you my.
I don't think we
The
give
fax
Terrence enough
machines.
credit though, Katie. I was messaging Terrence all morning because I just got this new mic. I'm like, Terrence, how do I set this up? Help me set this up. Terrence figured it out for me. Helped me set it up. So Terrence is
That's
not
true.
not
He
bad
is
for a boomer.
Thank
not
you.
bad. He
I do
is
appreciate that. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, this is actually kind of cool. Here my
Yeah.
young co-founder is asking me for technical help, and I'm responding with exactly the workarounds.
That's
Yeah.
right. You are a tech guy. Yeah. I think that brings us to kind of the hopeful message of AI, because you're right, there is a lot of stuff out there that can weigh us down for sure when we think about AI. But I think in terms of this group and in terms of talking to all of the ladies, and Angelica's put it, and I'm going to circle us back around to your point, Angelica, because I think this is what is so hopeful about women in our age, in our space, and the tool of AI. And that is that we have this opportunity to create this network to say, let's view this as an assets based model. We bring to the table so much, right? Like you're saying, Terrence, like I've got so much experience, and now AI is just making that exponentially stronger. And so Angelica says, I've got 20 years of the digital marketing experience. And then she wants to just layer on that AI consulting, right? And she is thinking right now, she uses it mostly for content planning ideas, but she's thinking she needs to focus on prompt marketing and creating a business where she pitches her services to small, medium businesses, which I
Yeah.
think that
So
is the
I
most hopeful thing,
I'll
right?
jump in there.
Lean
And by the
into the
way,
hope, gentlemen. I knew you'd love it.
just from a 30,000 foot view, there's not been, I say this over and over, and I'm going to keep saying it until I blue in the face. Hopefully I don't get blue in the face, but like there's never been a better opportunity for entrepreneurs, meaning people who want to be an entrepreneurs, small business owners, people want to, this has been like, I was around when the internet started to come into business world. This is 100 times better. It's literally resetting the entire ground floor to where an entrepreneur can start a business tomorrow, like a school community or something like that, and be very successful. To Angelica's point, you're onto something. Like Luke and I, that actually is something we looked at with a couple of our business partners who do AI and doing it in small. I'm going to tell you, I'll tell you our model. There is a huge disparity right now between these guys out there building AI automations. Hey, you can literally throw a stick and hit 100 AI automation guys, right? But you talk to a business owner, and they're like, especially SMBs, small mid-sized business owners, let's just call anyone under 10 million. They're like, I heard about ChatGPT, right? So there is a huge gap there. And from a consulting standpoint, Angelica, huge opportunity to provide yourself, to go to these SMB owners, be like, hey, like I'm here for it. Let's do this long-term engagement. I'll provide you AI as a service. You engage me. We'll build roadmap. We're going to do this safely. We're going to get buy-in from your entire employees, right? Because that's the last thing you want to do is just put some automation in the business. The employees are freaked out thinking, oh my God, he's trying to get rid of me, right? When it has nothing to do with that. I think the valuable people in a business, which is the most valuable asset of any business, is what needs to be leveraged with AI tools. So Angelica, that is a huge opportunity for you. And you're going to know right now, I can tell you, just being in this conversation, you know more than 95% of the SMB business owners. I can tell you that. We've talked to them.
Well, the stat, Terrence, to piggyback off your point, that really blew my mind, and I think, Angelica, this is really like pertinent to what you're thinking about doing, is 94% of small to mid-sized businesses right now are desperately looking for help with AI, but they don't know where to start.
Yep.
And
that's not some statistic that we just made up. That's a Gartner statistic.
And it's a really powerful stat, right? Because so many people see that, right? And they think, oh, let's go sell these businesses these one-off AI automations. Let's sell them how to do this workflow or this workflow or this workflow. But they're completely missing the point, right? Like AI is scary to a lot of people right now. I don't know the stat off the top of my head, but I think it's of 9 to 5 employees, 72% of 9 to 5 employees, it's something in the 70s, are worried about what AI is going to do to their jobs over the next 5 years.
It's like 77%, I think.
And you know what that leads to? Is the number one hurdle to successful AI implementation in companies is employee resistance, right? And that's where so many people are missing right now, is they're going and trying to slap these AI automations on businesses. And then what ends up happening is employees don't end up accepting the new AI workflows. They don't end up using it. So it's just these expensive workflows that just sit unused. And then now these companies, they've spent money on AI, they feel like they wasted it, and now they don't know what to do next, right? Their employees didn't embrace it. And that's where there's a huge gap in the market for people like you, Angelica, who can go to these business leaders and sit down and have a conversation with them and be like, hey, before we go and build any automations, before we do anything, we're going to have to put together a roadmap on how we can get your whole team on board. This isn't like a one-time, 1-month engagement where we just slap some AI automations on it. It's like, no, this is a 12 to 24-month process where we're going to get your whole team on board and we're going to do a whole cultural transformation. It's not like one of those things that just happens overnight. This is a full cultural transformation that these companies have to go to. And there's a huge need in the market for people like you, Angelica, who can be that guide for them on that cultural transformation.
I'll give you a specific example, right? So I've owned a number of businesses, but I owned one that was more of like a brick and mortar, right? We had probably 15 employees. And when people would come to me as the business owner asking me certain things, I was like, I'm not really sure because I don't really know that the process, right? That Betty runs with accounting, right? And so that's where there's huge opportunity, especially with the business owners. You sit down with them, be like, hey, why would you have someone come and put an automation in your business? Like if I asked you a question like, what is your process for handling receivables? The business owner's not going to know. I guarantee you they won't, right? But they'll be like, I don't know. Let me ask Betty. Betty's our, accounts payable person. She'll know. Then you bring Betty in, and Betty has a system. She has a process. That is why you can really make your point to a business owner. And most of them will know that anyway. It's just like, hey, why would you put an automation guy in here to automate a process that he knows nothing about? And frankly, you know less about than Betty. Betty knows that process, right? You got to get Betty's buy-in, by the way, too. But you have to have Betty's understanding and knowledge of that process in order to build an automation, in order to help that business owner get to where they're trying to do. So just to reiterate, I think that's a great model, Angelica.
Yeah, for sure. So Angelica's she's well on her way. And maybe, with our kind of last few minutes, let's give her something really tangible to walk away with, right? She's using ChatGPT to create a pitch deck, right? She wants to include how to get sites to optimize for large language models, LLMs, right? What would be some things that you would say, like, what would be a prompt framework? Like, where would you tell her, like, here's where you need to go. Here's what you need. Here, how do you use ChatGPT as a thought partner in this?
I would, Luke, I don't know if you had some. I wouldn't spend a lot of time building stuff out. I would go in as a consultant and have that conversation, just like I just said just now, which is like, if you put me in front of an SMB owner, I'd be like, I'm sure you're getting sold automations, right? But like, let's talk about your understanding of, LLMs, GPTs, et cetera, right? I would talk about it from a holistic standpoint rather than going with the solution, because all the automation guys are going with solution. And I would go in and have the conversation like, hey, I'm a consultant, I'm an AI consultant, like, right? Like, these are the things we do. And I'm not going to bombard you with all these things we can do to automate. Just have a conversation like any good consultant would do, is have a conversation, right? And don't present a productized version or a pitch deck or anything. Just say, hey, this is just a conversation, right? Like, that'd be my 2 cents. What's your take, Luke?
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there. I think the biggest problem that I see people making right now when they go pitch AI services is they go in with like, hey, we've got these couple tiers, and they're trying to fit businesses into their box instead of the other way around. And so the biggest thing that I would do, like Terrence, Terrence and I have been talking about how we could actually like help people do this. And the biggest thing that we've realized is what the process needs to look like to drive actual AI change in a business and how you're going to get people bought in is you go in there, you run them through a workshop, right? Where you talk to them, that you're like, okay, how are you feeling about AI? What have you done with AI? Have you done anything? What about your finance team? Are they doing anything? You understand their pain points. So like, okay, if I could snap my fingers tomorrow and help make 3 problems easier with AI, where would you have me start? And then what you do is you take the recording of that workshop and that discovery that you did with them. You then plug that workshop or discovery in to something like ChatGPT, and you ask ChatGPT, based on the transcript of this workshop and this discovery I did with this business, what should I pitch them when it comes to AI services that would actually make a meaningful impact on their business? And then you go back to them with a custom roadmap and a custom plan based on what they're actually struggling with. That's how I'd treat it, as a very consultative, value forward sale rather than trying to fit businesses into my AI box.
I know you have a lot going on. You should build a course for this for her AI. That's a really good, like all that stuff we've been talking about over the last few months in terms of the workshop. Well, using the workshop method because we've used that before, but using that workshop and teaching it to the folks in her AI how to basically be and go out and pitch the workshop method and AI as a service. Like that would be a really, really good course.
I love what Angelica just put in there too, like
Mhm.
basically coffee chats with local business owners. Like that, I
Oh,
think that's beautiful.
100%.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah,
so
for
that's a
sure.
great suggestion, Terrence. I can put together the course on basically how to, because this is the biggest opportunity I feel like in the next couple years, right? Being
100%.
that AI transformation guide for these small businesses.
100%.
And so I think if the ladies in the group would find that, valuable, that's something I can put together on basically how I'd run this step by step. So maybe we can put a poll together,
Yeah.
Katie, or
Yeah,
something
maybe
like
even just one like
if they'd be interested
what we
in.
were thinking too, and maybe run it by Angelica. Be like, hey, would this be something you'd be interested for us to build out, type of thing.
Angelica, me too, man. I get chills when I think about you rocking this world too. And I think that what you all touched on and what Angelica is saying, right? Because is this is one of the critical mindset shifts that AI is allowing us to have, and that we need to have to embrace this world. And that is, it used to be, hey, you create a widget, you go to the market and you see if they want that widget, and people buy it or they don't, right? Now, it's I'm going to go to the market. I'm going to see what they want. And AI then, because it can be a thought partner, because it can carry that load, if we know how to prompt it, how to get stuff out of it, then it can help us to do that, right? And so Angelica, same, right? I'm in education. I design courses. An instructional designer. That's what I have done. It used to take me months to design a course before I was going to put it in front of somebody. And now, these two gentlemen, just like they've just done in this conversation, right? With me, with her advantage, they had to hold me back and say, look, don't create anything. Don't create a course. Don't create any learning modules until you go talk to the people in your group, until you see what they want. And once you see what they want, and I was really afraid, I was really worried because just like you were saying a couple chats ago, Angelica, I was saying, well, they're going to tell me what they want, and then it's going to take me 3 months to get it to them. And I can tell you right now, because of the experience, because of the 20 plus years experience I have in instructional design, and because now I'm learning the tools of AI, I was able to create this course in a couple days because I know what to ask it. But not only that, I have 20 plus years in instructional design.
Yeah,
When it
that's the
gives me
important
something
part,
back,
Katie.
I can
Katie,
refine it. I can cut it down. And that's what you're going to be able to do, Angelica. You're going to go out to the market, you're going to talk to businesses, and you've got your marketing experience. When they come back, right? You're going to be able to design that like that and get it back to them, all right? And you're going to speak right to what they need, right?
yeah,
Instead of what you think that they need. So,
yes,
yeah,
that's
for sure.
Angelica, do you have experience with a specific industry more than others? Like in your 20 years of digital marketing experience, have you worked with like a specific type of company?
real
Are you
estate or
passionate
or
about?
legal or
Yeah.
finance or accounting. Has there been any specific industries? Because that's the other thing is we're waiting for the answers to come in. That's the other part, which is like, do not be afraid to niche down. Like if you did
Mm.
something good, just go be that expert for that industry. Like we've
So
seen that be so
Angelica came
successful
back
with
and
our
said
clients in the past.
uh, she
Mm.
she came back and said that she has experience with CPG, e-com, and then also beauty. So thinking of pitching to med spas.
Oh,
I
dude,
think
that's a good
it,
one.
I think if we were to
My
like,
wife is a manager of a med spa place. That's why I've been trying to, but she's so busy running the med spa, she can't even do this. Yeah, go ahead,
So
Lisa.
she'd love it, Angelica.
no, so what I was gonna say is like if I think if we were creating like a business model from scratch for you, Angelica, just on this call, I think probably what I'd recommend you do is you niche down as like being an AI guide for those med spas. And you can do something like Katie did right here with starting a school group, run like local ads to like your local area for med spas, like med spa owners who are looking for how to use AI, bring them into your group. And then just like Katie's been doing with every woman that comes into this group, having conversations with them, asking, where they're struggling, where they're at with AI, and then building your offer back from those conversations you had. Like I really believe wholeheartedly in that business model of like, don't build anything yet, get into those conversations, ask them what they want, and then build what they want and pitch it to them. Like I think you could have a beautiful business really quickly, Angelica, if you were to really niche down on those med spas and help them be their like AI transformation guide.
I mean, awesome. That is a high hopeful note about AI to leave us on for our time. So this has been so fabulous. We're doing more of these. So next week we've got our calendar. Make sure you hit up the calendars tab on Her AI Advantage because we've got on Monday our Welcome Monday where you can pop in, hear what's new. We're going to be launching some courses. Next week on Wednesday we've got a member meetup, so we're going to really start to build those networks out. And then I know it's spooky Halloween week, but we will find a time to do a Q&A. And then just because I want to make sure that all of my career seekers also know that in the works, we have an expert coming on in for a recruiter from sort of major consulting firm in the country and is going to talk to us about what are the identifying hallmarkers of, is it a real job? Is it a fake job? Right? How can we build out that network? And how can we sort of get through the AI recruiting screen and things like that and just really optimize our potential in terms of that so that we can accomplish our goals. So thank you, ladies, for being here. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. As always, this is the best way to spend any day, but especially a Friday. So yeah.
I
Awesome.
agree.
Bye,
All right,
everybody.
guys. We'll see
See
you next
everybody.
time.
Thanks for coming.